The earlier discussion in this little series concentrated on using layers to separate out, say, a layer for lighting, another layer for irrigation, a layer for telecommunications, sewer, maybe a hardscape layer, and so on. The use of layers is very handy in working on your drawing. But I'd like to draw your attention to the use of layers in symbols that we provide with gCADPlus. If we take the simplest example first, if we draw a line on layer 0, that line, if you look over here, says the colour is by layer, layer is on layer 0. So whatever our settings for layer 0 are, and they're currently draw with colour 7 or foreground colour, continuous line type, line weight set at the default, whatever those properties are, the line will reflect it. If, however, we draw the same line on layer irrig and the layer is set to colour blue and the line type is set to a dashed pattern, and let's confirm that by going here, and there's layer irrig, colour is 150, line type is dashed and thickness is 0.3. That's why you see a blue line, and if we put line weight on, can you see it's thicker, relatively thick. Let's take line weight off for the moment. In contrast to that, here is a line which is also back on layer 0, the same layer that the first line was on, but this time the properties of the line, as distinct from the properties of the layer, have been set directly to be magenta and dashed. So it's very easy to get confused. All of these possibilities exist in the gCADPlus environment, so you can set it however you like. If we now look at the way layers and colours and line types are handled in gCADPlus symbols, I've got the symbols, some of the symbols drawn from library, plants and standard. This set of symbols here, I'm drawing on those. I'll cancel from here. Every one of the symbols in this first box come from that set. So if I happen to have layer 0 set when I'm drawing, let's pick one of these symbols, it will sit on layer 0, and it really doesn't matter what I do to layer 0. I could change the colour of layer 0 to red. Let's do that. I'll make it bright red. Nothing happens to the symbols in that drawing, although the border and the path boundary or edge change colour because they're drawn on layer 0. So what that tells us is that the symbols in the standard set have their colour set directly in the symbol. Let me just move that one back to colour 7 and we'll go OK. Things now return to normal. So they're the symbols from the standard set. The next panel takes symbols from the so-called size set. That's this one that you reach here, the second group there. You can see we've got tall trees, small trees, and so on. The idea behind that set is, as I've tried to illustrate in this central diagram, if you want to have some upper canopy symbols, then choose the symbols from the tall trees and small trees, and what's being done there is automatically the tall tree and small tree, the symbol set to a fainter grey. Let's see what happens if I change the colour of that layer to a darker grey and return here. You can see now that symbol stands out. So those symbols are really designed if you want to have an upper canopy and see the lower symbol showing through. The next panel in the series, the one on the right here, let's zoom in on it, uses symbols from library, plants and compound. Now the attempt there is to have a series of symbols that you can darken or lighten up using a layer called Graphic. Let me just take this symbol and say I'm going to edit it. And you see maybe some faint circles inside it. They're on a layer called Plant Graphic. And let's right click and close the block editor. And if we go to L plant graphic, it's been set to 131, and that's what gives these symbols a sort of well, we like to think a more interesting appearance, and that layer's been used in most of these symbols, not all but most of them. So if we wanted to make these symbols there stand out a little better and darker, you could just say I'm going to change the colour of that one to a darker blue, and we'll go OK, and can you see now the symbols again, they stand out a little better. I can turn line weight on and now they'll show a little better, and when I go into layout, as I've got here, they'll print reasonably well. Let's return back to the model though, and back to the very first panel. In this first panel, even though when we select the symbol it's on layer 0, that was the layer I had current when I was drawing, if we go inside the layer stack here, I've got a layer called L plant construction, so I can turn that one on and turn off a symbol layer, L plant symbol, and OK that. Can you see we now get, apart from a shadow effect on one of the symbols, we now get a series of circles with little crosses. So with one click you can produce a drawing that will work for your construction team. Let's turn the symbol layer back on again and the construction layer back. Well, I've now created a fourth little panel. This is this one down here, bottom left, and I've populated it with symbols that I've got from the gCADPlus website. Let me go there to that website now, and under downloads and palettes of symbols, we've produced a whole series of symbols sets that you can download. There's this set here which you're just about to see in the gCADPlus environment, patio plant, just block symbols and name symbols, and it goes on. And in the flyout alongside palettes, we've got drawing sheets, irrigation, and lots of them. We've done it this way rather than keep adding these to gCADPlus, because that will make the installation file much bigger than it really needs to be. So if you need some of these symbols, if you want some heritage symbols, just go to the heritage symbol and click here and download them and use them in your environment. So let's go back to gCADPlus now. So there's the symbol set there, and I use that to populate the drawing, and I had as my current layer when I was working, I'd set it on layer 2. So if we go into layer 2 now, and it's current, so let's go back to layer 0 as being current, and we'll turn off layer 2. All of those symbols disappear, and the reason they all disappear, let's come back here, turn on layer 2, the reason is each one of these symbols doesn't contain any of the other layers that were used in the previous demonstration panels. So let me edit this one. So it doesn't matter whether I select that outer zone or one of the inner zones or whatever, everything in these symbols is drawn on layer 0. Now some designers like that because it's really simple and doesn't clutter the drawing with a whole lot of layers. So I hope you can see we've given you a lot of scope for flexibility among the symbols that we provide with gCADPlus. It's just that different drafters want to work in different ways. Don't forget, under library and broad scale, there's a whole series of generic symbols that can be inserted into any drawing like so, and those generic symbols are really handy on broad scale work, and you can label those, use the same symbol over and over again and give it a different species name. So I hope that helps.